Beyond the Gates spoilers have surfaced, and the simmering feud between Kat Richardson and the Thomas sisters is about to ignite into full-blown warfare. From the moment Kat set foot in the Thomases' elegant hotel suite, her mind seethed with contempt for Leslie and Eva Thomas, two women whose very existence threatened her ambitions. She had watched them from afar. Leslie's graceful composure and Eva's unshakable poise had earned them the respect of the city's elite. Kat, ever the opportunist, seized upon any misstep, any fragment of vulnerability, as ammunition in her crusade to bring them down. And when fate placed a discarded boxing helmet and a pair of worn gloves in Eva's suite, Kat recognized a golden chance. Late one evening, under the cloak of darkness, Kat crept into Eva's suite. The corridor lights were dimmed for the night, and the hush of the hotel lulled other guests into complacency. Kat's heartbeat thundered in her ears as she surveyed the plush interior, velvet drapes, marble-topped side tables, and a mahogany armoire she knew would conceal her treachery well. She slipped the helmet and gloves into a duffel bag, her gloved fingers trembling with excitement. These were not mere props. They were symbols of Eva's private passion for kickboxing, a secret pastime she indulged to relieve stress, a facet of her life known only to a handful of confidants. Kat's plan was meticulous. She stashed the helmet behind a potted ficus in the Thomases' ornate foyer and tucked the gloves beneath the cushion of a wrought iron chaise longue in the courtyard pavilion. She imagined Jacob Hawthorne's face as he stumbled upon them, confusion, betrayal, suspicion, and the slow burn of doubt as he confronted Eva. That internal conflict, Kat mused, would fracture the bond between Jacob and Eva, and once that fissure widened, Leslie's twin shields of sisterly loyalty and public esteem would crack. But planting evidence was only the first maneuver in Kat's elaborate gambit. In the days that followed, she fanned the flames of rumor and innuendo. In hushed phone calls disguised by background noise, she hinted to a local blogger that Eva Thomas's charitable foundation might be a front. She let slip that Leslie's legal practice has ties to shell companies. No proof accompanied her veiled accusations, only question marks, insinuations that seeped into the gossip mill and left a pungent aftertaste. Meanwhile, Jacob Hawthorne sensed the growing tension before he laid eyes on the planted gear. Eva had come to him, pale and startled, to confess that she'd misplaced her boxing equipment after a training session. She'd last seen them in her car, but the hotel staff reported no record of her bringing them inside. The seams of her story didn't align. Why would she leave her helmet behind in a rented suite? Why would she claim ignorance when she revered her training? Jacob's brow furrowed with unease. He believed Eva implicitly, but then, doubt was like a virus. Once introduced, it spread through every thought until nothing felt certain. Leslie, ever protective of her sister, noticed the strain in Jacob's eyes. Their once effortless rapport had frayed. Casual touches and knowing glances gave way to clipped conversations and shaky smiles. Leslie cornered Eva in the dressing room of a charity gala, the mirrored walls reflecting their mounting desperation. "Tell me the truth," Leslie demanded, voice tight. "Did you misplace your gloves, or are you hiding something?" Eva's breath hitched. She shook her head, frustration mingling with hurt. "I'm not hiding anything. You know me, Leslie. You know who I am." But her voice wavered, betraying the tremor of uncertainty Kat had engineered. Leslie's heart ached for her sister, but anger flared at the notion that ever Eve could be so careless. Leslie stormed from the room, resolve hardening. She would uncover the truth, expose the source of these whispered lies, and protect her family at all costs. Kat's delight grew as Leslie launched her investigation. She trailed Leslie from mahogany-paneled offices to hush-voiced rendezvous with private investigators, eavesdropping on conversations via cleverly concealed recording apps. Every time Leslie secured a new piece of information, hotel logs, witness statements, Kat sabotaged it, faked hotel records to suggest Eva had checked out early, planted anonymous calls to Leslie's team claiming that the foundation's accounting was open to inquiry. Kat reveled in watching Leslie burn the midnight oil, redrafting emails and rewriting affidavits, while Eva sank into a quiet despair, her usual confidence eroded by the ceaseless scrutiny. But Kat underestimated the bond between the Thomas sisters. In the bitter aftermath of the gala, Leslie and Eva confronted each other in the cozy privacy of Eva's home. The walls were lined with art landscapes of rolling hills, abstracts in muted pastels, but tonight, the air was thick with tension. Leslie's eyes shone with unshed tears. "I don't want to doubt you," she whispered, stepping toward Eva. "But the evidence, someone is trying to destroy us." Eva reached for Leslie's hand, her own palm slick with worry. "Then we'll fight back," she vowed. Their pact forged, they turned their focus from Catherine Richardson's slander to the shadowy figure orchestrating their downfall. As dawn broke, they devised a plan: lure Kat into a trap by feigning further discord, then ensnare her once and for all. Leslie tapped into her legal network, prepping restraining orders and surveillance warrants. Eva marshaled her philanthropic connections, rallying support from those whose loyalty ran as deep as her own. United in purpose, they prepared to confront Kat's treachery with every resource at their disposal. Word of the sisters' counteroffensive reached Kat through a leaked tip one of her own informants was double-dealing. Panic pricked at her composure. She realized that no matter how sly her maneuvering, Leslie and Eva were formidable adversaries, bound by blood and bolstered by mutual trust. Kat's mind raced. Exposure meant public disgrace, career ruin, and the collapse of everything she had worked for. Desperation shadowed her thoughts, her breath growing shallow as she contemplated her next move. Then the unthinkable happened. Kat vanished. One moment she was at her downtown loft, reviewing the surveillance footage she'd obtained on Leslie's team. The next, her phone went unanswered, her social media accounts silent. Jacob Hawthorne felt it first when Kat failed to pick up their scheduled dinner meeting, an event she'd arranged to lure him into discussing fake evidence against Eva. He sent text after text, called her mobile, even pinged her through their shared encrypted messenger, but each attempt went unanswered. Jacob's gut twisted with dread. Kat was impossible to ignore. She thrived on attention, on conflict. For her to vanish without a word was a siren echo of alarm. Jacob launched his own unofficial inquiry, revisiting Kat's last known locations. A taxi driver confessed he'd dropped her off near the Thomas estate late that night. Surveillance cameras showed her walking up the tree-lined driveway, clutching her purse. She never reemerged. No one saw her leave. Jacob's heart pounded as he retraced her steps, the manicured hedges and ornate gates towering like silent sentinels. His legal mind catalogued every possibility: kidnapping, voluntary disappearance, worse. Yet he could not accept that Kathy's friend, his confidant in countless midnight escapades, would willingly slip away into oblivion. Driven by desperation, Jacob began to tail Leslie and Eva. He knew their reputations, their schedules, their every public appearance. He watched Leslie's sleek sedan arrive at Eva's residence that afternoon. He noted Eva's anxious pacing by the front window. As evening fell, Jacob parked his car half a block away, donned a hoodie, and slung a camera bag over his shoulder. He followed their headlights into the winding roads of the suburbs, heart hammering like a war drum. When Leslie pulled into a secluded driveway and Eva stepped out, clutching what looked like a heavy duffel bag, Jacob crouched behind a cluster of azalea bushes to observe. What he saw next froze him with shock. Leslie grasped Kat roughly by the arm, and Eva's eyes glinted with resolve as she helped guide Kat toward a weathered stone barn at the far edge of the property. Kat's hair was disheveled, her expensive coat crumpled, her eyes wild with alarm. She protested, her voice muffled by the barn's closed door, but Eva's grip tightened and Leslie's glare brooked no argument. Jacob's breath caught in his throat, his principles battled with his terror. Could his dear friends truly be capable of such violence? The question started through his mind, but there was no time for moral quandary. Kat's muffled cries echoed from within the barn as Leslie and Eva secured the heavy wooden door with a padlock. A single window, barred by iron grates, offered scant ventilation. Jacob's pulse flared. The horrors he imagined inside that dark enclosure churned his stomach. He watched Leslie press a rag over Kat's mouth and then pull out leather straps, snapping them with a definitive click. Eva rummaged in her duffel, producing roll after roll of duct tape and a pair of thick gloves identical to those Kat had planted in the Thomas sweet days before. Jacob realized, with burgeoning horror, that the siblings were enacting their own grim version of justice punishment tailored to the sins Kat had inflicted upon them. Every instinct screamed at Jacob to intervene. He fumbled for his phone, intending to call the police, only to see Leslie's hand flicker through the barn window, signaling Eva. They were orchestrating this abduction with cold precision, and their brutality was no impetuous moment of rage, but a calculated response to Kat's transgressions. Jacob's mind raced. If he alerted the authorities, would they believe him? Would they find Kat alive? Doubt poisoned his resolve, but one thought broke through the paralysis. Kat was in peril, and he was the only one who could save her. As Leslie and Eva retreated from the window, locking eyes in a bitter pact, Jacob slipped from his hiding spot and sprinted toward the barn. His shoes pounded the cracked asphalt as adrenaline propelled him forward. The cool evening air burned his lungs, and every second felt like an eternity. Branches whipped at his face as he darted across the overgrown lawn, ignoring the prick of thorns and the sting of bruises they left behind. At the barn door, he bent to examine the padlock, but time betrayed him. Footsteps thundered behind him. He glanced over his shoulder to see Leslie's silhouette emerging from the darkness, Eva's torchlight casting harsh beams across the clearing. In that instant, Jacob realized that his attempt to rescue Kat would come at great personal risk. The faces of Leslie and Eva, resolute and unyielding, loomed before him, sisters bonded by blood and vengeance, ready to defend their honor with unflinching force. The door to the barn offered a glimpse of Kat's pale hand, her fingers trembling as they reached toward him. Jacob's heart clenched with both fear and determination. He raised his voice, a desperate plea slicing through the night. Let her go. The echo of his demand was swallowed by the barn's wooden walls. Leslie froze, her posture rigid. Eva's torch swung toward the door, illuminating Jacob's flashing eyes. And in that suspended moment, the three adversaries faced one another across a threshold of rage, guilt, and fractured loyalty. Beyond that barrier lay dark secrets, shattered trust, and the potential for violence none could fully contain. The air thickened with anticipation, each heartbeat echoing like a drumroll. Kat's muffled sobs beckoned Jacob closer, while Leslie and Eva braced to defend their actions. The boundaries between right and wrong, justice and vengeance, blurred beneath the moonlit sky. In the hush that followed, the fate of all hung in the balance, poised on the edge of a decision that would reverberate far beyond the cold walls of the barn. A sudden burst of activity surrounds Bill Hamilton's bedside as the morning sun filters through the ICU windows. His eyes flutter open, confusion clouding his gaze before recognition softens into relief. Nurses exchange congratulatory glances. The crisis has passed, and though Bill's recovery remains precarious, today marks a small victory against the relentless tide of his heart condition. Naomi Hamilton stands vigil at his side, exhaustion etched into every line of her face. She brushes a fingertip across her father's palm, marveling at its warmth, the same hand that taught her to ride a bicycle, the one that steadied her during every childhood scraped knee. Vernon Dupree hovers beside her, offering fresh coffee and gentle reassurances. Though neither words nor caffeine can erase Naomi's persistent guilt, his steady presence helps anchor her trembling spirit. As Bill reclines against crisp white pillows, memory of the past week's turmoil floods back. He recalls the beeping monitors, the panicked flurry of doctors, and then Naomi's tear-streaked face as she whispered apologies into his ear. Guilt had consumed her, yet Bill senses a deeper truth. The love she carries is neither a burden nor a curse, but the fortress that sustains him. He reaches for her hand, squeezing it with surprising strength. Naomi's eyes widen in disbelief as he manages a weak but genuine smile. In that moment, she realizes that while fate may batter them with unexpected blows, her father's resilience and her own courage and weather storms far darker than any diagnosis. Elsewhere, Andre Richardson lingers in the firm's hushed conference room, replaying the voicemail Danny Dupree left that morning. "I'll be there when you need me, no matter what." He cradles his phone as though it's the only thing keeping him tethered to hope. Danny's carefully chosen words thaw the ice that had built up between them since their divorce, stirring both comfort and fear. For months, he'd avoided confronting old wounds, convinced that distance was the only path to healing. Yet now, as he navigates the emotional labyrinth of his mentor's illness, he feels drawn back to the woman whose empathy once saved his sanity. He imagines her presence at his side in the quiet moments, the shared coffee in the break room, the way her laughter used to ripple through late-night paperwork sessions. Danny, seated in the hospital's reverent hush, contemplates her own conflicting desires. She watches Andre move through the ward-alerting staff, consulting with specialists, offering quiet thanks to nurses who have become allies in Bill's care. Her heart swells with pride and longing. She remembers the comfort of his embrace, the easy rhythm of their once-shared routines. Yet guilt nags at her guilt for hoping he might need her again, for enjoying the flicker of hope that reunion would bring. She turns to Vernon, who stands just beyond her vision as Naomi's confidant. His understanding nod reminds her that forgiveness begins with self-compassion, not just reconciliation. Encouraged, Danny composes a message to Andre. "Can we talk? I have something important to share." Her finger hovers over send, until she breathes deeply, then taps the screen and waits for the future to unfold. On a sunlit rehearsal stage downtown, Anita Dupree surveys the Articulate's first public performance in years. Tracy, rehearsing vocal runs at the piano, channels the precision that once drove audiences wild, while Sharon, perched on a folding cello case, strums an impromptu riff that makes Anita smile. Together, they form a living tapestry of talent and history, three women bound by friendship, sisterhood, and the magic they created 2 decades ago. As the chatter of backstage fades, Anita raises her hand, signaling the first bars of Golden Embers. The familiar melody wraps around her like an old quilt, and she joins in with rich alto tones that blend seamlessly with Tracy's crystalline soprano and Sharon's dusky mezzo. The harmonies soar, filling the hall with echoes of past triumphs and promises of new beginnings. Yet beneath the surface harmony, small cracks appear. Tracy, ever the perfectionist, pauses mid-phrase to correct Sharon's timing, her eyes flashing with artistic urgency. Sharon's hands fly over her instrument as she argues that spontaneity fuels creativity, not strict rehearsal schedules. Anita steps between them, offering soft criticism and gentle praise in equal measure. She reminds Tracy of the spark that first ignited their success, and she tells Sharon that structure can elevate talent, not stifle it. The sisters soft voice rather than blood exhale in unison and find their groove once more. When the final chord quivers in the silent hall, the applause washes over them like a cleansing tide, and they realize that their reunion has forged something stronger than nostalgia, a renewed unity that honors both discipline and freedom. Meanwhile, in the shadowed corridors of the Richardson estate, Martin Richardson paces before the locked study door, letters clutched in trembling hands. The historian's box revealed secrets of Martin's youth, clandestine meetings with corporate spies, unaccounted sums funneled through offshore accounts, and a final agreement that bound him to unspoken favors. His past has returned with a vengeance, threatening not just his reputation but the very foundation of his family's legacy. In every brittle envelope lies a fragment of truth that, once exposed, could shatter trust and catalyze scandal. Martin's lips press into a thin line as he contemplates his options: conceal the evidence and risk it surfacing in a more destructive form later, or confess now and face the fallout. The weight of that decision settles on his shoulders like chains of lead. Downstairs, Bradley Smitty Smith methodically cross-references travel logs with expense reports, his brow furrowed in concentration. Tasked with investigating his own wife's history, he balances the meticulous scrutiny of an auditor with the pangs of a husband who fears betrayal. She had always been the rock upon which he built his world, the steady presence that comforted him through every trial. Yet each discrepancy he uncovers: a dinner expense in Zurich unaccounted for, a mysterious phone call billed at an offshore number kindles a flicker of doubt. As dawn approaches, Smitty closes his laptop and runs weary fingers through his hair. His love for her collides with duty. His heart aches for the truth even as he fears its consequences. He steels himself for the inevitable confrontation, praying that the woman he married carries no secrets that could destroy them both. In her sleek office at Richardson & Sons, Eva Thomas reads Ted Richardson's formal offer letter. His propositional leadership role in his new international arbitration wing sparkles with professional promise. The position would challenge her legal acumen, leverage her meticulous research skills, and grant her influence on a global stage. Yet the letter also carries echoes of a past Alliancia whispered memory of late-night strategy sessions in this very building, the sense of unity that came from shared victories. Accepting Ted's offer could mean stepping back into a world where familial and corporate loyalties intertwine in tangled knots. Eva's pulse quickens as she imagines herself negotiating treaties in London, Tokyo, and Geneva, but she hesitates at the mention of boardroom politics. She folds the letter and tucks it into her drawer, determined to consult with Ludmila, her trusted mentor, before making a decision that could reshape her career and possibly her heart. Ashley Morgan, restless in her apartment, scrolls through Derek Baldwin's social media profile late into the night. Each new post mundane snapshots of breakfast croissants and commuter trains flares her anxiety rather than alleviates it. Their last conversation ended in hushed accusations and cold silences. Derek insisted that work stress consumed him, but Ashley's instincts sense a deeper secret. She reviews their photo memories, road trip selfies among autumn leaves, laughter-filled frames at summer barbecues, the tender moment when he surprised her with concert tickets. Those images feel like relics of a happier era, a paradise marred by the shadow of unspoken truths. With resolve, Ashley drafts a message: "Meet me tomorrow morning at our cafe." No phones, just honesty. She hesitates before hitting send, her finger poised over the screen, and then taps send, letting the weight of her demand hang in the ether. Across town, Chelsea Hamilton navigates the labyrinthine corridors of the cardiology wing, her steps sure despite the knot of worry in her chest. Dr. Madison Montgomery emerges from the elevators, stethoscope draped around her neck, and spots Chelsea approaching. Their relationship has evolved beyond patient and physician. They share confidences and moments of laughter that bridge the gulf between clinical detachment and genuine camaraderie. Chelsea carries a stack of childhood photographs, snapshots of summers spent with her father on fishing trips, holiday portraits that capture Bill's mischievous grin, candid frames of a father-daughter dance at Naomi's wedding rehearsal. She presents the photos to Madison as a peace offering and a gesture of trust. Madison's eyes soften as she sorts through the images, her professional reserve giving way to personal warmth. She shares stories of her own family, her mother's battle with breast cancer, her brother's struggles with addiction, and Chelsea realizes they are kindred spirits bound by love and loss. As Dr. Montgomery reviews Bill's latest test results, Chelsea steers the conversation toward the future. She speaks of her aspirations, launching a scholarship in Bill's name for aspiring cardiologists, building a foundation to support families of patients with chronic illnesses. Madison listens intently, her medical expertise blending with a personal urge to nurture Chelsea's noble ambitions. She agrees to consult on the foundation's structure, ensuring it complies with healthcare regulations and maximizes impact. Chelsea's gratitude spills into tears, and Madison offers a tissue along with a reassuring smile. In that moment, their alliance transcends the boundaries of doctor and daughter. It becomes a partnership rooted in hope, compassion, and shared purpose. Late that night, every story thread converges beneath the soft glow of a lone street lamp outside the hospital. Naomi steps into the quiet courtyard, seeking solace among the blooming jasmine vines. Danny joins her, fresh from her lunch with Andre, eyes alight with cautious optimism. They lean on the rough stone wall, drawing strength from one another's presence. Across the way, Eva emerges after a tense meeting with Ted, the offer still humming in her mind like an unopened gift. Smitty waits in his car outside the main entrance, heart pounding as he rehearses the questions he must ask his wife. Ashley strides purposefully toward the cafe, steeling herself for the confrontation that may mend or sever her relationship. And Chelsea, buoyed by her bond with Madison, steps toward the hospital's volunteer desk to finalize plans for her scholarship foundation. Within the silent courtyard, Naomi and Danny share promises of renewed trust, of forgiveness granted and accepted, of love rekindled amid adversity. Their laughter mingles with the night breeze as they plot small rebellions against fate, charity galas to host, legal battles to win, and concerts to resurrect the harmony of friendship. The jasmine's fragrance weaves around them, a reminder that even in darkness, beauty endures. In offices and living rooms, boardrooms and bistros, each character stands on the cusp of transformation. Bill's fragile heart unites them all, a spark that ignites courage, compassion, ambition, and redemption. Naomi and Vernon anchor the family's hope. Andre and Danny explore the possibility of forgiveness. Tracy, Sharon, and Anita reclaim their voices. Martin confronts a past that threatens his legacy. Smitty wrestles with loyalty and truth. Eva weighs power against personal fulfillment. Ashley demands honesty that may heal or harm, and Chelsea forges a bond with Madison that transcends fear. The future stretches before them like a road shrouded in dawn's mist, its destination unseen, yet beckoning with the promise of new beginnings. As they step into that unknown, each brings to bear the lessons of love, loss, and resilience, ready to face whatever storms may come beyond these gates.